Okay. So in the previous sessions, so just before this, we have talked about the payroll process. So just to quick recap, we understood a typical payroll process for an Indian payroll and what is the gross income equation of the payroll, like net pay, what is a net pay, gross income, gross deduction, those two definitions, and payroll processing, and the three stages of a payroll processing for a typical payroll. Okay, it is not exclusively for India, like it can be for any other country as well. But as we are learning Indian payroll, this is the stages I have just emphasized here. Okay, and similarly, we have also seen that what are the typical data sources, like as an employee, for a payroll processing, what are the different data sources and from which sources the data is coming. Okay, so as I was explaining for employee and managers, so the data comes from ESS and MSS, employee self-service and manager self-service. Similarly, HR team, you can say, or generally they are responsible for updating your data. So for that reason, I've not called them a payroll. Rather, I talked about the HR team rather. Okay, so they will be updating the salary structure. So why salary structures is very important? Because in case every year there is a salary revision. Okay, there's an increment. So in those cases, you have to update those specific salary structure. If a person is opted for certain benefits, okay, and he is eligible for that benefits, the HR has to update those data. So that can be also your different data source point for your HR. That will be maintained by HR. Similarly, the finance team. So finance team, as I was giving an example of a recovery. Suppose you have taken a salary advance, you would like to recover that in the subsequent month, okay, from the employee. Then your finance team, it can be the payroll person or it can be the finance team. They will be responsible for deducting that recovery or taking that recovery from the employee. Okay. So that is a responsibility of a typical finance team. And also Srikanth has mentioned, he talked about regarding those time sheet applications or your time leave applications. Those can be the source data, because many a times you'll be seeing like outside SAP also, certain companies, they use time and time out data. It can be some other third-party system like Kronos, Workforce software, many other software local vendors also, which can be integrated with your SAP. And from that, you'll be taking those time in and time out data. And from that, overtime will be calculated, your whatever the time related difference, your time evaluations one will be done. Again, your shift allowance will be calculated. So those can be also a data source when it's a leave and attendance system, it will go. And other than that, we have something called general service provider. It is not that much applicable. Generally, if you are having some third-party canteen provider or in transport service provider, you can deduct them those component, okay, from your employee's salary. Those canteen will be providing certain kind of bill. Suppose you are having a Sodexo or some other component. In my organization, we use Sodexo time, your ticket restaurant, those kind of companies. What they do send some bill and they will be deducting from your salary. Similarly, the transport service provider, suppose you are using some corporate travel, like Ola, Uber also they are doing these days, but some other third-party service provider, they will be deducting those components from your salary. Okay? So the people are providing the data. So this is just a generic example, like from a typical payroll process, what can be the possibilities of a data source point. Okay? So hope it is clear. Any questions here before I go to the next one?
No, I don't have.
Okay. So this is regarding your data source point. And just before I go for next one, I would like to understand from you, have you also gone through the time evaluation in the time schema part in your previous training?
Yes, we have an idea, but we are not practice it too much. Like we have practiced it only once because we are learning payroll, right? So I'm not focused on that.
Okay.
Not focused on that accurate time. Yeah.
Okay.
But I have an idea, and I know how to time evaluation, how to write the PCR and timer. I have just a little bit idea.
Okay, PT60 and your RPT QTA, quota generation program, the standard.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we have it. Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
Good,
As
good.
Lakshmi also, she has an idea also.
Okay.
Same.
Good.
Okay.
Okay, so this is regarding the basic one. So now I'll be talking about little bit of this is I already talked about, but just a different diagram I have given, like pre-payroll, run payroll, post-payroll, and also you have a certain thing, something called periodical activities. So periodical activities example can be some kind of reporting, some kind of statutory reporting you are doing on a regular basis. Okay, so saying whatever the things I have previously explained, that was from a point of view of a typical on-premise payroll. So before I go there, do you understand the difference between your on-premise and the cloud payroll? Any idea?
Yeah, I have SaaS and PaaS, right? SaaS, software as application, cloud. It will say like on-premises means we have to maintain those servers and we have to install those softwares in our company. And cloud means they will maintain all those things, and we are using the space in the cloud, and we are just paying for that.
Exactly, exactly. So you are very close to that. So SaaS means actually software as a service, and PaaS, which you talked about, platform as a service. So software as a service or platform as a service, both are actually cloud related terminology. But if you're using on-premise, generally most of the customers these days, they are planning to move, okay, to move to the cloud, most of their modules. Okay, although many of the customers, they are still hesitant to move their payroll to the cloud because of the data security and all, but still SAP has given assurance to them. Still your data is saved. If you have a concept, something called private cloud and public cloud. Have you heard about it? Public cloud and private cloud?
I do actually. I'm hearing this first time actually.
Okay.
Private cloud and public cloud.
Okay, sure. So generally what happens whenever I'm talking about why I'm talking about, because of the next whatever process I have explained here, this is more from a cloud payroll, because I would like to have both. I would like to know, means you should know both the thing, on-premise payroll as well as the cloud payroll. Okay, so because future is the cloud, not future, currently also people have started already using the cloud payroll. Okay, I'll be touching upon both the things. Okay, so when I say cloud payroll, when it comes to SAP, okay, and it will be your success factor Employee Central payroll. Okay? And how you have clearly mentioned, as you are absolutely correct, Srikanth. Like as you have mentioned, whenever you are talking about the cloud payroll, there are certain components, so hardware, infrastructure, everything is taken care by the vendor. So when I say vendor, for our case, it is SAP. Okay, it will be taken care by them, so you do not have to maintain your those stuff, infrastructure and all those stuff. Okay, even most of the statutory things also will be updated directly by them, most of the things. Okay, but the difference between the on-premise and cloud payroll clearly is it is more intuitive. On the cloud payroll, you'll be running it when it comes to success factor, at least I will say, because mostly I have worked on Employee Central payroll for the last 1 year. So cloud payroll, the benefit is you will be hosting, means there is whatever the data, you do not have to go through those details. Although whenever you are talking about running the payroll, it is more intuitive and more easy, interactive rather, I will say. From the front end itself, you'll be running the payroll. You do not have to enter any T code and any transaction code for those activities. Okay. So that is, there are many other benefits as well, which I will be discussing in subsequent sessions. Okay. So just you have to, this can be a task for you as well. Like it's kind of a small assignment, like you have to understand, or you can find out the difference between your on-premise and cloud payroll. You can come make some notes, okay, and share with, you can share with in the next session. And then just a small task, you can Google it and you'll find a lot of things. Okay. But yeah, I'll be covering anyway those things as well. But whenever next process, whatever I'm talking about, this is the diagram which I am talking about. This I have taken it from the success factor process library, Employee Central Payroll library. You are specific to Employee Central Payroll. Okay. And this is your specific for what are the same thing, almost similar things which I have previously, what are the process which I have talked about. This is more from an on-premise generic one, but now it is more specific to your payroll. Okay. And from here, do not worry about this number, this MHR 50 and all. This number is actually given by SAP. So that number you can ignore. Okay. So in a typical payroll process, suppose the client is asking to design a payroll process. Okay. So you can draw this diagram using your Microsoft Visio. There is a tool called Microsoft Visio. Are you aware of the Visio tool? Have you ever worked on the Visio tool? MS Visio.
Okay.
Okay, so this is a tool. It is from Microsoft. Okay, I'm just typing out the name so that you can search. Okay, so this is a tool. Also, there are tools like there are some other paid tool also like Aries. Okay, what these tools talks about, they do generally. Suppose you can do also the same thing in the PowerPoint as well, but it is more easy to do it in the MS Visio. There are certain tools already available, certain elements, okay, which you will be generally use for drawing your different process specific to your client specific process. Okay, you can use this tool. Okay, so why I'm talking about this, because generally typically in a typical implementation project, so you first of all you have to take those requirements. So I'm talking more practical. This is not because configuration implementation doesn't take much time. Okay, so but before the taking those requirements, okay, so you after taking the requirement, you have to draw those using some tools. Okay, so which for that reason I'm talking about this kind of tools, MS Visio, your Aries and all. Okay, so that tool you can use to draw this kind of diagram. Okay, so in those diagram, so what is in a typical we call it a process diagram. Okay? So what we call process diagram, and in every process diagram, you will be having certain kind of label. So here you can see there is something called L0. So what do you any guess? What can be L0? Tell me. Any guess?
No, I don't have an idea about it. Yeah.
Okay, so when I say L0, this is actually the basic. And suppose you are talking about we have a different level. So suppose you're playing a game, video game or any other computer game you're playing, we have a level, right? L0, L1, L2, L3. You just level 4, level 5, you keep on moving and all. So from a payroll process point of view, we here, this is the L0. L0 means the basic level. Okay, basic level. Like in a typical payroll process, we have a different, these are the, I call them process group actually. So for each and every process, there's a plus button you will be seeing. That means if you, so this is not a tool, I've taken a screenshot, but if I would have shown it in the tool itself, you will be able to double click it and you will be going into that, inside that tool. Okay, so this is a tool which I have used in my projects. Okay, Aries tool I have used mostly, and you'll be finding. So if I'm talking about a pre-payroll, if I double click, so you can think of it, I'm double clicking this icon. Okay, if I double click on the pre-payroll, L02, I will be moving to the L1 process. Okay, so now you can see previously the just see it's L1. When I say L1, this is under this. So under pre-payroll, the code you can also see MHR 5010. MHR 50 is the payroll. Under 50, we have 50, 10, 20, 30, 40. That means we have a 4 process here: pre-payroll, run payroll, post-payroll, and the periodical activities. And inside the pre-payroll, we have, these are the different activities or different tasks or process, sub-process I will say, not activities, just a sub-process I will say. Inside that particular process group, we have an initiate payroll period, manage. What are the things we'll be doing in the pre-payroll activities? So from a success factor, EC payroll point of view, these are the 6 activities generally we do in success factor. It is also we do in OnPremise payroll also, but in a different way. Okay, so like I will talk about process payroll data alert. Okay, so have you heard about it anyway in the OnPremise? I believe no. The last one.
No idea.
Okay. So what is the meaning? I'll just explain quickly. So initiate payroll period means, so whenever you are running a payroll, so once you complete the previous payroll period, like say I'm talking about say September payroll I have already done. Okay. So after payroll run, then I'll be exiting that payroll. Then I will be moving to the next payroll period. So that is the first step, generally initiating a payroll period. Okay. So that means we are telling to the system, dear system, we have completed payroll for September month. Now we are ready to move to the next payroll period. Okay, so that is the meaning of initiating a payroll period. Okay, so this is the first thing we do. Okay, so once it is done, so you have a fair idea of a control record, right, Srikant and Lakshmi? Like
Yes,
how
yes,
the
yes.
control record works, release for correction, release for payroll, all those things. I'm not going, I'll be touching upon those anyway, but still at this point.
Yes, we have it.
So yeah, so similarly in the pre-payroll activities, we have another thing we call it managing a master data for payroll. So once it is your control record is set up in a way, you will be responsible for, you will be asking your HR in particular payroll period. Suppose for another next 20 days, say October 1st to October 22, people can update their master data, whatever the part of the data sources we talked about. So it will be capturing those data from those different sources, and you will be HR or the different persons, they will be updating their master data. Okay, that is an input for your payroll. This is also part of your pre-payroll activities. Okay, so this is clear. The first box and second box is clear, right? What is the meaning of it?
Yes, yes. It's
okay.
Clear.
So the third point is importing external data for payroll. Any guess what could it be? When I say importing external.
Yes, it's a lot. Importing means we are getting the previous details, or when we implementing the SAP software, we are getting the other softwares. From other software, we are getting data, and or else time data. So time
Exactly.
management.
Second example is more relevant. Time data. So mostly if the client is using some time system and it has been integrated with your SAP payroll, in all those cases, you're on a regular basis or every 5 minutes, 15 minutes, depending upon the setup, your time in and time out data will be updated in your SAP system. So those can be also an example of external data. It can be also data related to your benefits. Generally, I have not seen mostly in the US payroll, you'll be finding those benefits data coming up, insurance related data. Those are any third party, whatever the third party software or third party vendor you are using for payroll, those data can be integrated and you can import those external data for your payroll. Okay. And the first example which you have told, like from another software, if during your implementation, that is also correct, because whenever you are suppose say you are moving from any third party or any other legacy payroll system to SAP payroll system, in those cases, so you have to prepare your data. Suppose you are going live in the month of say October. Okay. So to make it consistent, your payroll, April to your October, or for the current year, you have to update those data in your SAP as well. Otherwise, your income tax related will be coming to toss. Okay. So those we call it a mid-year go live. Have you heard about it? Mid-year go live. What is a mid-year go live, Srikant?
So I have heard about this. Mid-year go live. When we are running SAP implement go live, SAP go live mid-year, like accounting financial year in middle year we are running we are going to live in SAP. I think I'm thinking that is.
It is not literally. It is not literally not mid-year exactly. Suppose you are. Suppose you are because in India we have a financial year starting from April to March. Okay. And due to some reason you couldn't go live in the month of April. Suppose you are going live in any other month other than the April. Okay. Still, if it is a May, June, July, any month. Okay. That we call it mid-year go live. Okay, so that is even if we call it as a media, why we call it a media? Generally, we have to.
Can you explain me again? Can you please explain me again?
So I will explain again. So what I am saying, what is a mid-year go live meaning? So in a typical payroll accounting cycle for India, we do have your April to March cycle. Okay. So if you are going live in the month of April itself, that means you should have preparation already started in the previous year. Okay. So suppose you're going live in the month of April itself, then there will be no problem because all of your financial statement, everything, your payroll, form 16, everything will be perfect because you are going live from the month of April, first of April itself. In case you are going live in the month of say July or October, say October, we are in the current month of October. So what will happen? from the month of April to September payroll, you have executed that using your previous payroll software. Okay. So in the previous payroll software, whatever you have used in the legacy, we call it legacy payroll. Okay. So you have used that software, and those data remain in that particular payroll software, and those data is not there in your SAP. Okay. So whenever I'm talking about SAP Indian payroll, so whenever you will be executing any kind of say Form 16 or any kind of tax related thing, then system will understand the data from April to your month of September. So for that, you have to bring those data from payroll results, all the payroll results from the month of April to September to your SAP system, so that system will aid those values, like those what are the payroll results till the entire gross from the month of April to September, while calculating the tax and all, because it's a yearly activity. So it will consider those as well during your calculation of the tax or whatever statutory things from the month onwards of October. Okay, you got my point, Srikanth? Like what I would like to mean say.
Yes, I got the point.
Okay, so for that reason, some people find mid-year go live little tricky, not very difficult, but I will be anyway in one of the session. I'll be telling you how. Suppose you are going mid-year go live. What are the key steps you have to take? Okay, what are the things you have to update, and what are the tables to be updated? Okay, and what are the programs to be run? SAP provides all those things with to us. Okay, it's not only for India, for any other country payroll as well. Similar principle is applicable. Okay, so that is a concept of mid-year go live which I talked about. And there is something called, this is one concept, another concept which I will be explaining here today itself, like a parallel run. Have you heard about it? Parallel run? Payroll parallel run.
Yes, I have heard, but I just heard the word. I don't know actually what it is.
Why I am discussing this thing? Because these are most frequently asked common questions, mid-year go live, which I talked about. Then which I'm talking about payroll parallel run. So these are the common things people will be common questions people will be asking during an interview. Okay. So for that reason, I'm focusing on these things because learning SAP is not that difficult, but understanding these things from implementation point of view, practical point of view, you have to understand very detailed way. So what is a payroll parallel run? What is the payroll parallel run which I am talking about? Suppose you are running your you're going live with the month of October, okay, and your legacy system is using payroll till month of September, okay. So what will happen? Immediately we will not be decommissioning the legacy payroll due to some reason. So generally, it's a general practice. We run the payroll in both the software. Suppose we are going live with SAP on October, still for the next 3 to 4 months, say, depending upon your organization's management decisions, you'll be running the payroll in both the system and will be doing the tally for both the system, whether the total net payroll, if everything is coming correct or not. Okay. So for suppose say from September onwards till you have run in the legacy payroll system. From October onwards, suppose your company has decided to run payroll for the next 3 months in both the system, October, November, December, you are deciding you will be running payroll in both the system and we will be doing the comparison of what is the payroll total in my old software and what is coming in the SAP software. Okay. So see this process, these activities, the use activities generally during your implementation we do if you're going for such kind of, even it is a mid-year or if it's not a mid-year go live, still if you're moving from your legacy system to your SAP system, even if you're doing in the Excel system, if suppose you are doing Excel, the payroll is a small organization, you are doing payroll in Excel, still you will be doing some calculation in the Excel and you will be comparing that with your SAP, whether that is coming correctly or not, or there are certain differences coming, and is that difference allowed or is that difference so it's a known difference, you have to agree upon the stakeholders. Okay, so this entire series of activities, we call it a parallel payroll run or payroll parallel run. Okay, do you understood, right, Srikanth, what is the concept of a payroll parallel run?
Yes.
So this is a common activity we do in a typical payroll. Suppose you are moving from one system to one SAP system. Okay, so this we call it a payroll parallel run. So now when I say pre-payroll, in this activity, I talked about import external payroll, data per payroll, Then there is something called check payroll data quality. Okay, so that is again in the on-premise payroll, what we do, whether the data is correct or not. How we will be checking? Any guess? How will we check your data quality? Any guess?
No idea about this.
Okay, so what do you mean by data quality? Sometimes what happens, certain in a typical HR process, your suppose somebody's bank data is missing, somebody's PAN number is missing, or you found some discrepancies in the data. Okay, so how to ensure those data quality is checked? In Employee Central Payroll or the cloud payroll, we have a different concept. We system will be giving some alert. Okay, like before running the payroll itself, it's very advanced. But in the on-premise payroll also, this facility is available. But how will we be doing it in the on-premise payroll? In the on-premise payroll, we'll be having certain reports. There are many master data reports. There are many HR related reports available. Simply before going for your completing your payroll activities on a regular basis, you have to dedicate some time, like say 1 hour per week or 1 hour or 2 hours for every 10 days. You will be ensuring that your data is correct. Suppose there is a new hire, suppose there is an employee separated for who left the organization, or whether those data have been updated automatically in the system or not. All those you can prepare a checklist kind of thing, and those kind of thing you will be checking in the beginning before running the payroll. Okay, so that is what I mean by check payroll data quality from an on-premise payroll point of view. But in SuccessFactors Employee Central Payroll, we do it in a different way. Automatically system will trigger. There are certain more deep concepts are there. Anyway, I'll be explaining later. Right? This is how what I mean is the payroll data quality check. Okay, so this is one of the activity we do in the or a sub process we will saying in the pre-payroll activities. And another thing is something called process for HR data alert. So this process is not available in your on-premise payroll. It is there in your SuccessFactors Employee Central Payroll. But how you'll be achieving it? So generally in the simulation, whenever you will be doing a simulation payroll run, you will be getting some kind of warning. If there is any error or warning, all those things will be getting. Okay. So in that way, you will be understand that. But from a SuccessFactors payroll point of view, Employee Central Payroll point of view, this is taken care a different way. Okay? And after understanding the data alert, in last 2 things or 3 things, it is very specific to cloud payroll. It is easily done in the cloud payroll. That's the advantage of your cloud payroll. But in the on-premise payroll, that is not smooth as in your cloud payroll. Okay, like processing a payroll data alert. Okay, who will be solving that particular issues in a payroll coming? It is very much automated in your cloud payroll, but it is a long process in your on-premise payroll. Suppose there is any error, then you have your payroll administrator or payroll manager will be talking to the HR or if it's a difficult issues, then they have to contact you. Suppose you are a payroll consultant in the project, okay, or a support consultant, they will be reaching out. So those things actually done through email, or it can be through your telephone. Okay, so they'll be again they will be solving that and they will be reporting that. Okay? That's the kind of incident management things, and it's coming in your process payroll data alert. Okay? But these things can be automated in your cloud payroll. This is regarding a pre-payroll process thing. This is the L1 process which I talked about. Okay. So this is from a SuccessFactors payroll point of view, but it is also up there in the on-premise payroll. But in on-premise payroll, we do in a different way. Okay. But you have to understand these things for a better fundamental. I'm just giving the foundations so that you'll be understanding in a better way. Okay. So this is your L1 process. Okay. Any questions in the L1 process?
No, we don't have any questions.
Okay. So in the next one, what I will do in subsequent L2 process, I will not be covering here. Okay. Because L2 process, it is more specific to Employee Central Payroll. You will not be able to understand that. Okay. L2 process, I'll be skipping. And this is for a reference only. Whenever you'll be learning Employee Central Payroll, okay, Veera is also worked on that. He worked on Employee Central Payroll. I helped him. So these things will be there, okay? Like your initiating payroll period, what happens inside the system from Employee Central Payroll point of view. This is for your reference point, like nothing different. Suppose I'm talking manage master data, okay? So you can see there are some event. We call it event in SuccessFactors, but in the on-premise payroll, on-premise HCM, we call them actions, okay? That is a difference only. You got my point? Like hiring event, employee termination, employee transfer. Okay, in this series, you can see the entire thing. But it is from a SuccessFactors point of view, we call them event. What we call them is actions in your On-premise has same. That is the only difference. You got my point?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so for that reason, L2 process, I'm not going into detail. Okay, so in the latter point of time, whenever anything I'll be explaining, I'll be talking about it. But for the time being, you just understand the L1 part today, L0 and L1. Okay, so similarly, the next L1, what is the next L1? Next L1 process is running a payroll and running an off-cycle payroll run. So as I have already explained, off-cycle payroll run means which is you are not running in the regular payroll, like outside your SAP. Okay, so on a subsequent, any kind of reimbursement, any kind of bonus, suppose you are paying any additional payment which you are doing outside the regular payroll cycle, that we call as a off-cycle payroll. So again, this is the L1 thing. How to run this payroll and everything, it's actually this very detailed way, but it's more from a success factor point of view, just for your reference, I've given it, okay, so that in the future, it will be helpful for you. So after understanding the initial two pros, so there's something called post-payroll. So what are the things we do in the pre-payroll? We have seen pre-payroll, actual payroll, then the post-payroll, what we do? So we'll be executing the different payroll posting, we'll be running the payroll posting, integration, your HR FI integration is already, if it is done, you will be updating, your data will be flowing from your HR to finance, okay? All of your payroll data, and it will update those costs, whatever the debit credit will happen inside your finance system, okay? So that is regarding your post-payroll process, and after that, you will be executing specific to any kind of payroll reporting. Okay, this is regarding your post-payroll, nothing much. But again, as I have mentioned, L2 process I will not be, it's just for reference. This is wherever you will be seeing there is a violet color, say PCC. Actually, this is from your payroll control center, which is a Employee Central Payroll part. It's a part of Employee Central Payroll, okay, which is a different one, which I'll be covering towards the end actually. Okay, so this is part of a cloud payroll. Okay, so this is not part of your on-premise. For in the on-premise also to some extent it is there, but it is not that much beneficial. Okay, whenever I'll be talking about Employee Central Payroll a little bit, I'll be giving an idea. Okay, so in that I'll be explaining that into it. But for the time being, just understand L0 and L1, whatever I've written. The last L1 process is your performing year-end activities. So what is an year-end activities? Any guess, Shrikant, in a typical payroll cycle or for a particular organization, suppose they're talking about year-end activities. So what do we understand by year-end activities? Any guess?
Year-end activities means like like tax submissions to the government. And is there any deductions?
Yes. Absolutely correct. So what happens generally in a typical payroll cycle or a typical organization for Indian payroll, we for year end means generally the month starts generally from your January to March. Okay, generally we consider, we ask people to, suppose they have declared, what are the declaration they have done, like your income tax related, insurance related, all whatever. We ask employees to upload their actual. Okay, so they have to update their actual, whatever the actual investment they have done. Okay, there is something called proposed investment, there is something called actual investment. So they have to produce their original copies, they have to upload in the employee self-service, all those relevant documents. They have to hard copy also, organize and ask for those as a statutory requirement sometimes. So they have to submit those all those documents. If it is a HRA claim they are doing for HRA exemptions, they have to produce the monthly rental receipt, rental agreement, all those stuff. Okay, so those things actually they after employees produce it, then as a payroll administrator or payroll manager, they will be verifying those things. Okay, so all those activities can be considered as your year-end activities. Just one example I have given. There can be many other examples as well, specific to PF, specific to professional tax, whether everything is done or not. Okay, so generally we call it the periodical activities. It can be year-end activities, or it can be sometimes it can be a monthly. Suppose certain things we have to produce on a monthly basis. So those can be also considered for it. We call it periodical activities. And again, depending upon your country. So for India, generally we year-end means it's starts from your December, January to till March, people do produce that. And generally Form 16 generated in the month of May, June, and they will be giving, employer will be providing those Form 16, everything. Okay, so all those things, uploading those tax related information and everything, the test website and everything will be doing through. These are considered as a periodical activities, nothing much here. Okay, so they will be producing due to different government authorities. In case of India, it is the income tax department and all those things. Okay, so there are some third party authority. If it is there, they will be producing those details. Okay, so or suppose in case of reimbursement again, suppose the employee has not claimed anything, then that will be paid the taxable component in the month of April or a March say rather a March. Then you suppose you are eligible for certain reimbursement, but you have not claimed that. Okay, so you will be getting that entire amount, but it will be taxable. Okay, so those kind of activities you will be doing in a typical Indian payroll scenario. Okay, so that is an example of a year-end activities. Any questions here regarding L0, L1 process? Okay.
No questions from my side.
So in the meanwhile, I will recommend to Google the document which I have my effectiveness of SAP HR in the HR payroll. Although it is an old document, but you can just Google that, you'll be finding and download it. And in the meanwhile, today we have not gone through very detailed, rather the L0, L1 process. I got certain terminology I have covered for you. Okay. Then what I will do in the next session onwards, we'll be going more detail about it. And wherever you feel like this, we already know it, we can skip that topic or anything special you would like to understand. So in the next session, what we will do, we'll be going into the details. Just we'll be doing a recap of the info types, and I will be having a small quiz kind of interactive things like specific things I'll be asking to you. If your understanding is well and good, otherwise I'll be elaborate accordingly. Okay, because you've already gone through a small training, means elaborative training for entire HCM. So accordingly, we'll proceed. I'll be focusing more on the practical aspects rather than explaining those in the theoretically. Okay. So I'll be accordingly, we will be proceeding further. So then we will be stopping here. Any question before we wind up for today's session?
We are learning. So we are learning SAP HCM